And look, man, I tell you this sincerely. The play and the movie were made for the smartest woman in the room, which are my sisters, who get it. And they know who I am, and they don't saying to change, but they're like, think about this. So I made it for them, like the Chad Walker of it. How many women have had that? And then to really just play with the different layers of modern masculinity and all that shit. It just be fucking truthful, man. And I just want people to see it and enjoy it, and then see it maybe at different points in their lives. And then both as a piece of art that has something to say, and also as a piece of sort of craftsmanship that all these incredible actors were able to sink their teeth into by playing characters who are fucking complicated, just like real people.
Filmmaker Magazine presents Back to One with Peter Rinaldi.
John Pollono is an actor. He sat down with me in cyberspace to talk about the work. How do you usually begin your preparation process typically? Like, do you have a certain entry point that you like to take with a new character?
I mean, I think it differs. The meatiest acting I've ever done prior to Small Engine Repair was on stage. And, you know, theater is, you spend an immense amount of really profound time preparing and doing table work and really cutting it apart and getting to the root of it. You know, everyone has their different process. I like to write biographies of my character and personalizations and figure that out, and then find moments of my own life I can connect it to personalize it, and then do all that work with the goal of getting to the moment where I can throw it all away and be in the moment and react honestly within those given circumstances of what that is. That's always the goal. And that's obviously starts with knowing the lines and all that stuff, but knowing the intentions and whatever it is. But I always try to just find my way in and then get rid of it and just listen and be there. I've always felt like I naturally, whether it was on stage or on screen or whatever, I just want to be real. And unless I'm playing a character who's calling for attention, pretty much be like anti-acting. You know, we're not trying to be interesting in any given moment. You're trying to be truthful. I think because I am a writer, that I'm trying to always service the story as opposed to, you know, eat every little morsel of that moment and make a bigger meal out of it than it may require narrative. I mean, one of the most terrifying moments of my life was the first time I went out on stage, and it was for a one-act play that I had written and I had rehearsed, and I wrote it for myself and all this stuff. But I was in the darkness behind the stage walking out, and I was fucking terrified. And so a huge part of it for me is preparation to like remove that fear. And then you get to a point where you're like itching to get it out. I'm itching to show the audience in front of me what's going on. I'm itching to live the experience of what it is. You know, you do plays, you learn just as much on those plays that you do, and you have like 2 lines and then you're there and you're gone and you're listening or whatever. I mean, you know, there's the whole thing. But like when I say throw it away, I mean like you're just there in the moment, living in the truth of it is. And for me, it's jumping through a whole bunch of neuroses and other stuff, you know, to get there. I mean, you know, as a writer, a lot of times you start a play or you're shooting a movie or TV show or whatever, and you'll have the actor look at what you have on page, and they have their own terror. So they'll say, hey, how do I take this material and have it make a big step towards me so I'm more comfortable delivering it? But one of the great conditionings you get in theater is like, you get, man, you know, you're not fucking with that. You know, here's the text, you're not changing it. So you may bump up against it and don't get it. And then you spend a lot of time deconstructing and figuring it. And then you'll have a breakthrough because you'll see the writer's intent. And you'll suddenly say, oh man, I was really bumping up against this. But now that I've done the work, it's cracked open a whole other level that I wouldn't have gotten had that writer just rewritten the line to make me feel comfortable at that initial moment.
Yes, yes. And you came to this whole thing, acting, in an interesting way. Like you went to school, like film school, I think, right? NYU.
Yeah.
And people were just putting you in stuff as an actor, like, and that, right? Is that how you got started?
Well, so, I went to University of New Hampshire. It was sort of the in-state tuition. It's all I could kind of afford. And I was kind of fearful of what the world had because I was like sort of a closeted artist. And then I saved up enough money and I went to the NYU summer program, which was a sight and sound class where they teach you, I think, basically 2 semesters worth of film production in a summer. So you're there and you live and breathe it. It's like an 8 hours a day, every day. And, you shoot these films and inevitably you can't, some people cast actors, some people know actors, but most people are like, hey, you want to play this guy and walk in. So I just started being in, all these short films and kind of found out I had a knack for it. Like I kind of got it. Like I was cool. It just unlocked something about me that I could sort of be present in my body in a way that I wasn't in real life. And I enjoyed that. And I dug it. And I remember I did a couple of these shorts and then, you'd project them in front of the class and people would be laughing and then they'd ask me to be in it. And I was like, wow, I didn't know I kind of am good at this. And then I had another semester of, I went out strangely to Eastern New Mexico for an exchange for the adventure of it while I was at UNH. And I took a video production class. And it was the same thing. You make all these things, and I just kept doing it and being in it. And I was like, wow, I like this. I'm kind of good at it. And then when I ended up moving to Los Angeles and started taking acting classes, it just deepened and unearthed more and more of this. In particular, theater. And initially, I went in there because I was too much of a chicken to say, hey, I want to be an actor because of fear of that. Really going out on a limb. You're so fucking vulnerable. And I was afraid of that. And then I did it in the confines of this beautiful sort of conservatory, made incredible friends, met my wife there, met dear friends that I'm friends with to this day, started a theater company. And you realize the camaraderie of being in a theater company or being in a play is very similar to what I had felt being on sports teams growing up. And I loved sports. I loved athletics. And where I grew up, being an athlete was like the most important thing to do in a town. Yeah. And I was quite a good athlete, but never so good in any single sport that I was like all-star or all-state. I mean, the best thing I was at was like lifting weights. I was always just really strong, but I loved basketball, but I was never the best basketball player. Loved baseball, eventually didn't make the team and all that stuff. But I still loved the camaraderie. And when I was in theater, I was like, and I remember one of the first plays I did, I was on stage with this actor, Bob Mandel, and I was like, I don't know, 29 or something. And he was in his 70s. And we were rehearsing together and we're on stage together. And I was like, this is great. It's like we're on the same team, supporting each other, talking backstage. And I was like, what other art form allows me, as like a guy who's not even 30, to hang out with a 75-year-old dude as a peer, and we're both sweating. And we're both working out, you know what I mean? Yes. And I was like, this is what I want to do. This is great. Like there's no, your back doesn't hurt at age 38 and you're done. It's like you do it. You will never fully master the craft of acting. It's an infinite amount of challenges. You just keep getting, more and more accustomed to it, a deeper skill set, but it's like an infinite thing. And I found a lot of peace and like beauty in being part of something that I could just like release into. And certainly making small engine repair was one of the deepest kinships I've ever had. They're just different. But theater is like my wife who, raises our kids, and she's an actress, and she'll work in the guest star here, there, or whatever, here and there, commercial, it's the grind, but she's constantly working in theater, and she's constantly in these new communities and with these people. And, it's just nourishing.
That's the word, it seems like. Nourishing.
Yeah.
And did you start writing these plays in order for you to act in them?
So, for me, I'd written a bunch of terrible screenplays that were just derivative of movies. They were movies about movies, and, movies trying to anticipate the market, picking up the screenwriting books and being like, okay, this is what you do. And then obviously I wasn't going anywhere. And, I would get, I was working at the mailroom at Castle Rock Entertainment. I knew a guy in development, and he would take some of my scripts and he's like, hey, I'll get coverage on it. These guys are on our payroll. So they did get coverage, and their note was consistently like, your friend's 26. Like, why the fuck is he writing this? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not sexy and young.
Yeah.
It's not reflective of him. Like it's writing like a 1930s action movie that's supposed to be like Raiders of the Lost Ark. So then when I started to take acting class, you know, they don't give you TV shows, they don't give you movies, they give you plays. Mm-hmm. And Laura Gardner, who was this teacher I had who was just wonderful, and she would be like, the first thing I ever did in class was Death of a Salesman. I'd never read the play. So I read the play. I'm playing Biff, and I was like, reading a play as well with the intent of playing a character is like a whole other level of engagement in the material. Mm-hmm. But I was blown away by the writing. So I just started to devour plays and do all that stuff. So then I started to write monologues, because you have an assignment, like this week you're going to do a monologue. You know, for example, you do a lot of scene work, but if you're like, hey, listen, I'm really busy for 3 weeks, I can't meet, the teacher will be like, work on a monologue. So I would write them. And I was just existing in this world of playwrights where I would be listening to the greats, the Teresa Rebecks, the Sarah Kanes, the LaBute, all of that stuff, Arthur Miller, all that shit. So you'd get a segment of that play. And then, by the way, that actor would be done that scene or whatever. And I'd be like, hey, can I have the play? And they give it to me. I'd read it and give it back. So I started to have this library of just these little plays and just devouring. So then I started to write scenes that the kids would do in class, or the fellow students would do. And then I would write them for those actors. You know, oh, she's, a 52-year-old redhead, and she's like a spunky 24-year-old, and I'm friends with them. So I'd write it for the thing. So it was a great sort of workout for that. And then eventually those sort of scenes turned into one-act plays. We started a theater company, and we started to produce, we'd do a night of one acts, and I would write 2 or 3 of them, and then they'd get a couple other ones. And then, I eventually would workshop scenes within that. But I would write stuff for myself. I would write it for other people. But it was like, I definitely got to a point where I was like really enjoying the feedback loop of writing my material and performing it, and then being in the moment and so in sort of communication with an audience to get instant feedback as to what was working, acting wise, narratively, all that stuff. And it was almost interestingly what we're talking about, where it was like, hey, an actor is like, change this for me. I was like, I'm the writer of it. So I could then start to instinctually manipulate things to my own advantage, to either challenge or to make it work. And I mean, the way I would always approach a character. So example, when I wrote Small Edge Repair, knowing I was going to be in it, the character that I play is not the flashiest character, is not the funniest, none of that. And the performance was always rooted in the fact of like, here's a guy, like the actor wrote it. So the actor feels no need to do anything except service the plot. And that's really the DNA of that character. Is not a character who wants to be looked at. He does not, he's like doing everything he can to keep himself together. And then he's got these flashy, larger than life, incredibly vibrant characters populating around him. So
you kind of like orchestrated that for yourself because of that, right?
I mean, initially that particular character was sort of I had written variations on that character in that neighborhood a few times. And I was like, well, let me see how far I could push this archetype, incorporating the sort of lessons I had learned by performing variations of this archetype and other things in other people's plays as well.
Right.
So I just sort of cherry picked all that and kind of put it in, and then created this sort of like stew. And then that, and that material continued to change throughout the life of the play, the transition in the movie, during the shooting of the movie, and all that stuff. But the basic philosophy behind that stayed the same, which is like the story didn't really change, but it was more like, this is a character who people are orbiting around, but is not holding the spotlight.
Right. And what was really interesting about seeing the movie and having unfortunately not seen the play, but knowing it was a play, knowing you were the writer, knowing you are the actor, I was expecting this kind of performative performance. Like, hey, I'm finally going to get to be in a filmed version of my play. And it was so great to see you particularly. Well, I mean, we'll talk about the other great actors, but to see you do this performance in this really subtle, nuanced way that was I really responded to that. And for this to be the first time you're directing a feature, feels like a really remarkable thing.
Well, listen, man, I'm fully aware how blessed I was to be able to do that, and how everyone involved, from the producers to, my buddy Bernthal, who really backed me up on it. And look, John was like, been the lead of a lot of movies and a lot of TV shows. And he's like, look, dude, he's like, I just want to make sure you know how much work this is going to be. And I was like, listen, I do. And this is what I want to do. And he's like, 100%, I have your back. And so to take a really deep dive on this, and I'll explain to you why I felt this was such a singular opportunity. So I had played the character for, almost a year in LA with director Andrew Block. And then I played the character in New York for an extended run off Broadway with Joe Bonney. And so in both performances were different, same character, same lines, different. So I could cherry pick that. I knew, and I have acted enough in front of the camera and stuff, I knew sort of how I could just walk around as this guy. But more importantly, a couple of factors. One, the character I play, Frank, is, like I said, a guy who doesn't really want to be in the spotlight, but has to be. And he's coiled with anxiety, tension, rage, fear, and everything. But underneath all of that, he's pushing all of the agenda towards a singular goal. He's manipulating everything. I was like, that's like a director.
That's right.
So I knew everything I felt as the director, I could just funnel into that performance.
Interesting.
And equally as important was Frank is a guy that those other two guys, that Sueno and Packy, that John Bernthal and Shea Whigham, love. And they know he's in deep shit. And they love him so much that they're like, what are you going to do? And John Bernthal and Shea Whigham, the actors, reflected that emotion to me as the actor director in there at any given moment. It was like,
yes.
Hey, and the love everybody had for each other, but it was always like, just like the characters are like, hey, we love you, Frank. We know you're in deep shit. What can we do? The actors did that at every given moment. And it just created a chemical reaction that I was hoping we'd have. And quite frankly, I feel like we delivered in spades, because you can't necessarily mimic that. You could have gotten, I think I could have gotten an actor. I know so many great actors that could have played that Frank character, but I don't think anyone would have done it the way that I felt I had an opportunity to do it, which is one, knowing the world, and two, doing it in a way that, like you said, is completely not actory. It's completely about someone who doesn't want to fucking be the central character in this drama, but has to be. And it also, all three of those performances and those characters, they all exist in unison with each other. It's like three musicians playing. One guy's not going to do a solo. They all have to have that. And you have to do that. And it's rare to find actors who are like acting in service of the story, but more importantly, in service of what the other actors need in that scene. That's my favorite type of acting.
Yeah.
Not always easy to find. You can find some heavy hitter who will come in and maybe finance your movie for $10 million, but they're there and they've already made a choice of what they're going to do, and they eat it up. And then their performance may be, pop out and shine, but everyone else is like, where the fuck is the movie? And so the casting of this film and casting of the actors around it, it was crucial that everybody was selfless, like listeners. Yes. And therefore I knew all I got to do if I have this cast, and like Bernthal is one of my best friends, I'm like, that guy would do anything for someone he loves. Shea, who I got to know very well, same thing, took a deep dive. And I'm like, you get the three of us in a room, which 60% of the movie, that's what it is. That's going to work. And it did.
I interviewed Shea Whigham for my podcast 2 days before he started this film.
Oh, really?
So
That's amazing.
He was talking a little bit about it. So it was interesting to re-listen to, which I recommend people doing after they're done hearing this, and maybe even before they see Small Engine Repair, because he wasn't involved with any of the play productions. So here's this incredible actor that I don't know if you knew him before this in a way, probably not as well as you knew John Bernthal, but I wanted to just know what your relationship was before you cast him, and what that was like for him to be kind of getting initiated into this, because you and John had already like lived this for so long, this play.
That's a great question. It's interesting because he became so deeply enmeshed in the DNA of the movie, and watching it through the edit, he is now the synonymous with the role, but you know, I think he definitely had some intimidation in the sense of John and I have that built-in chemistry. He had done the play. I love the actors I've worked with at that role. I love the role. I had high expectations for it. I feel like Packy is such a singular literary creation within this world. I feel like there's archetypes of Frank and Sueno, and obviously the actors infused it to a whole other level, but I've never seen a movie with Packy.
Right.
I'm like, you know, he's the takeaway in some ways. And so, you know, obviously, and he's tricky. There's a huge physicality to it. Packy is so many layers and so much tragedy built into that character and so much humor. So we had to have somebody amazing. Bernthal, John had worked with Shea and they were close. And he's like, you're going to love this guy. So listen, I've known John for a long time. So many people involved in this movie were friends of his. So many of my dear friends to this day I've met through him. He's the kind of guy that if he endorses somebody, yeah. I'll give him a key to my house.
Yeah.
He does not, he has an unbelievable group of loyal people. So when he endorses someone, that's the end of the story for me. And again, I look at my closest friends, and so many of them I've met through him. He just doesn't stay friends with assholes. So anyway, he spoke highly of Shea. I'm a huge Shea Whigham fan. I mean, from Boardwalk Empire to everything that he was in. I've always been like, wow, this guy's so interesting. He's so different. And he's just like watchable and kind of unsettling.
Yes.
You know, so my big concern was I just kind of thought he was such a heavy, but right. He has a way. And so his process, we rehearsed this like a play, which, you know, was just delightful. We had the time as things were getting together. You know, we were in this office at a table. It was me and John and Shea for months, going through the script, talking about it. And Shea was just like an open book to being like, when you guys did it, did you do this? And he wasn't insecure about it. He was like, well, what did the guy did before? But Shea was building a character piece by piece. It was like, you know, in his cauldron, first he was, you know, creating the bone marrow, then the bone, then the flesh. I mean, such an in-depth thing. Because John and I had lived with these characters and did it, and were wearing many other hats. You know, John produced it as well, and figuring out so many things. Shea just was taking a deeper dive down that, and he was like, "I'm not going to show up." I don't think he ever would, but he was especially concerned to jump on the speeding train that John and I have at. We start at, you know, third base in terms of our chemistry and our relationship, and Shea came in there automatically, and obviously. Unbelievably so, and I really enjoyed watching his technique and what he did. He has this really cool dude named Tommy Draper who he works with.
Yeah, he was talking a lot about him on the show.
Tommy's a man, and you know, he and Tommy and I would sit down and we'd get lunch and have coffee together, and we would just talk about it in a way that's like, now look, man, if I didn't put that work into writing it, I would have been fucked, because like you would just have to make shit up. Or, you know what, Shea would have been like, hey, if you don't know, I'm going to figure it out. But a combination of being like, listen, I can answer a lot of these and some I can't. And then he would figure out his own. And it was all like, he just takes it all in, and then he puts this thing together. So, you know, John and I, coming from more of a theater world, we're like rehearsing and we're doing all this stuff, and Shea would do it. But he was like, I still don't know entirely what it is yet. I will. He's like, by day one, I will be there. So it was like still in the fucking chrysalis form, you know what I mean? And he's like, it's not coming out until it is. And then as we get closer and closer and closer, and he's methodical about his props, his everything. Everything is thematic to his character and his choices. Everything has meaning. I mean, so you show up on the day, and he's just is that guy. Wow. And he knows every nook and cranny, and we've, you know, so he's the antithesis of what I'm saying, where an actor's like, I didn't do the work, make it easier for me. He is the opposite. He's like, it's not about easy, it's not about hard, it's about what's truthful to his character. As much as I thought I knew this world, he knew Packy, rather his version of Packy, without a shadow of a doubt. So there were scenes where, look, man, there were some moments in the play that were funny as fuck. And then we're on the day and he's doing it, and he'll do it, but then he'll be like, listen, this just doesn't feel truthful. And you're like, you know, you're right. Yeah. So you listen to him. And again, that's the thing, is I think a lot of directors don't listen to actors as much. They look at them as a pain in the ass, but that may be the case if you don't hire unbelievable actors. So you had John and, you know, Shea in particular, and, you know, Jordana and Jennifer and Sierra, and Spencer, you get unbelievable actors. You got to trust them. So if they, and Shea became the one is like, if he's squeaking, if the wheel is squeaking, hold on, pause everything. Let's talk about this. Because 9 times out of 10, he's really, really valid. So there were some sort of shifts in tone that worked more on stage, that on the day he's like, you know, I'll do it, but it's just not. And he was right almost every time. And the nature of that character. And he found, you know, we really pushed that character in ways that I was scared to, in terms of particularly his sexual ambiguity. You know, I had sort of kept it very nebulous, but Shea made some really strong choices that in the edit we just pulled out because it just made the film just much more thematically resonant. In particular, like his sort of confusion. Like, this is a guy, if he had been raised in a more healthy home and probably a neighborhood that valued his skill set more, I mean, God knows what he could have done.
Yeah.
But he didn't. And that's the inherent tragedy of him. But despite all that, he loves everybody so hard, you know, so much. And he's missing that chip where he doesn't understand why people make fun of him. Like, he doesn't understand that. That's why he's always offended. He's like, why would you do that? Like, I wouldn't do that for you, to you. And all of that just made him endlessly watchable. And you know, like, I know John, and he is, even before I really knew him, he's one of my favorite actors. And he does remarkable things in this film. So between him and Shea, everybody, but especially those two, because they're on camera so much, you go into the edit and you're like, holy shit. It's like all these little pieces of treasure that they gave you, and you might not have even known at the moment.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And that's the hallmark of like unbelievable professional actors, that they're just doing it, you know, and let me try it this way, let me do this. And then trusting Shea to be like, he'd be like, you know, listen, I just want to try. I'm like, we got it. It feels great. And he's like, I want to try this thing. Okay, let's do it. And you do it. It doesn't always work, but sometimes you're like, Jesus, I'm glad we took that time, because he just felt, okay, we have it, but something's coming up. So that was great. You know, the stuff that he would do. And look, Shea has got, you know, thick skin. I mean, it was constant ball busting. Like, you can't just turn that chemistry off. Like, just fucking with each other the whole time. And then you got, you know, Sierra comes in and she's just ball busting as everybody else. I mean, she's very introverted, right? But she's there. And then Jordana, were like, you know, came in deep in the process. And then, you know, as did Spencer and you know, my wife, who plays Dottie in it, it was like, I'd seen her play variations of that role in plays that I've written. I read, was a lead in a play that was similar type character. So you have all this stuff, and then you can just play. And it's so fucking stressful making a movie at a lower budget. And, you know, in particular, you're outside and it can be really cold and you don't have a ton of time. So you got to be on your mark. You've got to get people who are bringing it and they're ready. They're ready to play. So that's just so crucial.
It's all organic, though. That's what's really surprising to me. People have said, and I know somebody that went to see Small Engine Repair in Los Angeles.
The movie or the play?
The play. People have said it feels like they're not watching a play. It feels like they're going, right? You've heard that. The movie feels that way, though. The movie feels almost like, and that's what's so surprising to me, for you guys to live with this material, knowing what works, and to be able to put it on film forever and not like relish in those moments so they pop out, which would have been terrible for me as an audience member, having never seen this. Instead, it felt, and I guess maybe that is because when you're a good actor and you live it for so long on the stage, you know what works, but not in the way like, here's my shiny object. It's more like it becomes a part of you, right?
Right. No, man. I mean, that's a great observation. So, you know, look, there's a technical nature to theater. You have to project. You have to have clear diction. You have to make sure comedy has a certain musicality and a rhythm. Movies, you know, and part of the transition is different. It's more grounded. You do multiple takes. But the movie, even more so, is like the characters in the movie don't know they're in a movie, you know. And look, certainly the play was structured to be immersive and visceral. And it's one act play with no breaks for, you know, 75, 80 minutes. So halfway through, you're like immersed. And the plot, as you know, and it's similar in the play, goes as far as it can before you're like, okay, what the fuck is going on? And then it starts to click. And then you start to realize, oh, that's a lot of that was happening. Now I understand. So the movie takes that to another level, but in each moment, it's not overselling it because it's like the characters are just living in that moment. They're at the dinner scene. Like, they don't know what's going to happen. They're just in love. They're in it. So John said it in a really good way, I thought, like in an early rehearsal, where he's like, knowing that these characters, even though they go to a place that's tense among them, they're used to it. So they're always just trying to reroute to get to that dynamic. Right. So that really helped in terms of, you see the characters, it's like, this is their dynamic. Now, fortunately, as a writer, you make that dynamic interesting to watch.
Yes.
You know, their dynamic isn't just sitting on opposite ends of the living room and not talking. The dynamic is always like ball busting. It's this and this and this. And then it has this tension. And more importantly, these are characters who, if they snap, it's going to be bloody. You know, they're not, evolved. They're not accountants. They're not gentle people.
Yes.
So they're people who grew up in a rough way and they're prone to violence. So you just build all that in, but you're, like you said, that's true, man. It's like at any given moment, you got to get the performers, and the performances, that's just about listening and being there and organic and throwing it away. Like, they're not trying to be funny to an audience. They're trying to be funny to that character, to that moment.
Yes.
And that is just all we did. And but just having people who trust each other and are there. I mean, look, man, you get a lot of, I've been guest star on plenty TV shows where the star gets their coverage and then they go to the fucking trailer. I mean, look, maybe it's busy. They got to get makeup. I mean, I'm not judging them. And then you got to do your coverage talking to the AD. This was a scenario where everyone was swimming in it so much. Like, I don't care who it was. If the camera was on your fellow actor, those other actors were acting just as much.
Yes. Off
in coaching and doing it and all there. I mean, it really was, we all knew it was a very special experience to do that. I mean, look, it's really terrifying whenever you have something new going out, especially something that is unfiltered as small engine repair and is uncompromising and is the only guide you have as an artist is like, am I going to be truthful? And will that truth convey what I want to say? That's a specific kind of art that I love. A lot of art, I feel, sometimes tries to signal its intentions and play to the cheap seats, play to someone's predisposition. I'm just not interested in that. I certainly wasn't interested in that in this movie, and no one else was. So that is like, you have to trust to be able to show a character as flawed and fucked up as they are, and to some people maybe even irredeemable, but truthful to the world and to the actor in the moment and to the characters. Like, you can't judge it.
Yes. Let me tell you my experience with this movie. I watched it at home, unfortunately, not in the theater, but this is the way it is sometimes. Right. But then the next day I went to the beloved drama bookstore here in New York City to purchase the play and read it right there in that wonderful new renovated cafe.
I'm glad they had it.
Yeah, they had it. So then this prompts me to come right home and watch the movie again. And a couple of things that I'm really impressed with was there are no female characters in the play, although females are talked about quite a bit in many, many different ways. And of course, one plays a major part in it. But you cast these people, some of these people, in this movie, and to great effect, because Sierra Bravo, who plays your daughter, is incredible. And what happens later really, really resonates in a way I'm not sure how it could have in the play. But the thing that I'm impressed with you, what I felt watching this movie, which I'm sure people felt, particularly men watching the play, was a certain thing, like a space created that I only know with my certain buddies, that I can't explain to people, that I'm kind of embarrassed about, and that I want to keep going back to, though. There's something in that space with those people, with those men, that I can't get anywhere else, that I'm starting to examine a little bit because of Me Too. I'm starting to examine the way we talk about women. But then seeing the movie, I'm saying, I'm so glad you didn't try to bring that over to a reckoning for these men, because I feel like the reckoning happens to me as an audience member after the movie is over. I'm the one who gets the reckoning. Like I'm the guy that can flip the table and have the steak fly everywhere. I am that guy. So I get to leave with a little bit of reckoning. Tell me, though, a little bit, if you can, the process of moving this into a film and how you avoided some of those pitfalls.
Well, first I would say, Peter, thank you for being so eloquent. I mean, you know, you make a film, you're sort of in a vacuum, and I had that tactile feedback again and again with the play, but it's been hard with this, not ever really seeing with an audience and really having that. So it's very, very moving to me to hear that sort of analysis, which was the intent. So the play, which was intended to be a provocative, entertaining piece that made you think. And there were no easy answers. Again, the play was a piece of art with no easy answers, but it was exploring the moral gray area. But more importantly, for me as a man who can live in that world, has 3 sisters, had a daughter recently born, a wife I love, and all that stuff. It's the feminine and the masculine, and it's really an analysis of that. And nothing is. It's not black and white. You can't say, oh, one or the other. And it was an exploration of that, and certainly the pitfalls of that. Now, and the technology and how that amplified it and everything like that, but the sort of what if behind that. In terms of the movie, yes, I definitely was deeply influenced by Me Too. I feel like a lot of the stuff that came out of Me Too was because of who I am and where I came from, and more importantly, having the influence of strong women throughout my life. I always was aware of this stuff. I feel like before most of my peers, and I was having conversations with this. And I wanted to create a piece of art that was like complicated, could speak to the men who go to those circles of friends. And by the way, there's a comfort in that. It's cool. But then also say, hey, you know what? There's some of this behavior is like, can really be shitty, and the repercussions of that. I just wanted to create a very, very difficult scenario. And with the Me Too movement coming out was really, I felt an opportunity to add to that dialogue in a way that, to continue it the way that I had with the play. Now I had to be more sophisticated. It had to be more bold. The technology, sadly, has only become more relevant. It changed from Foursquare to Instagram. But that concept of, you know, what happened, that the core concept of what happens is actually worse in the current state. Right. And then adding, you know, the original intent of the play was like, I want to make a feminist play with men in a fucking unfiltered way.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That like that most guys will see it and it will have that gut punch, as opposed to doing something, which, by the way, there's room for that art as well. That's a lot more maybe telegraphing that, or a lot more utopic vision of that. Like, how do you move the needle? The only way to move the needle is to actually have a conversation. So you can be savage if you're smart about it. So I felt I could do that. And it's a juggling act. Some people may say it went too far. Some people say it maybe not too far enough. Now with the film, it's sort of been the modulation of that. What the play works because of the camaraderie of the friends and the scenarios and all that, and the presence of Crystal throughout the play. Now, not only is it done sort of dynamically on stage with a large photo of that, but then how do you take that into a movie? Well, obviously you have to see Crystal in order for the stakes to really work. Yes. And build her out and flesh her out. And then the Karen, who's alluded to in the play, you bring her. Why wouldn't you? But it was sort of not pandering to Me Too, but saying, listen, now that we're having this dialogue, I don't have to start from first base. I can start from second base.
Oh, yes.
And I can just push the agenda further with the intent that, just like the play, the movie still needs to provoke. It's still like, it's hard to shock an audience into a conversation. It's just hard.
Yes.
And you know, man, it's like, I'm not interested in an art that says, hey, war is bad. You know what I mean? Like, yes. Read All Quiet on the Western Front by Remarque. It's like, it's a stunning indictment, but it's because it's truthful and it's showing it. And there's parts of that there's camaraderie and beauty. And then there's parts that are horror, but it's like, that's truth. That's truth. So I felt that I feel very, very connected to a lot of the dialogue that's going on. And I said, as an artist, how can I continue that? And it was the inclusion and a lot of the evolution of it. And look, we want it. I felt like there's lightning in a bottle structurally, and the premise and all that stuff in the play. And in terms of transitioning into a film, especially John and I were talking about it. It's like we matured as friends, as fathers, as artists. And the material, therefore, had to reflect the current time that it's in. You could have set a camera up and just shot it, and it would have been, I don't know, maybe safer. I don't know. But it was like having to just react to the current state of that we're in, and get edgy and really push that envelope. Look, people are always entitled to their opinions. I just hope that they get at least the intent of what's being said. And there are no easy answers. And there's multiple ways to have a dialogue. And I didn't think in this case being preachy and being, laying it out. I will say that the film is impregnated with the meaning that love and family.
Yes.
And when these guys are intimate with each other and with other people, and they feel deeply in their heart, there's just a cyclicality of some of these tragic elements of their childhood, and that a lot of us carry around. They're trying to work through it, and there's just no easy way to do that. There's no layup to that. Anyway, I'm really, really, honestly, this from my heart, it means a lot hearing that about it, and it's just great. You just put it out there, and the movie is an even more complicated amalgam of these thoughts. So to have you decipher that and get what it is, and look, man, I tell you this sincerely, the play and the movie were made for the smartest woman in the room, which are my sisters, who get it. And they know who I am, and they don't saying to change, but they're like, think about this. So I made it for them like the Chad Walker of it. Mm-hmm. How many women have had that? And then to really just play with the different layers of modern masculinity and all that shit. It just be fucking truthful, man. And I just want people to see it and enjoy it, and then see it maybe at different points in their lives. And then both as a piece of art that has something to say, and also as a piece of sort of, of craftsmanship that all these incredible actors were able to sink their teeth into by playing characters who are fucking complicated, just like real people.
Yes. John Pollono, thank you so much.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate any help getting the word out there, and your endorsement is huge.
And let's thank our friend Ryan Perez for putting us together.
Yes, he's the man.
Back to One is a production of Filmmaker Magazine, which is a publication of The Gotham, formerly IFP. Listen to back episodes of this podcast at filmmakermagazine.com or wherever you get your podcasts.